Hi everyone, it's Ian. I've been meaning to do these videos for a while, just short takes on perspectives, points of view, things that I find interesting or just want to chat about, and so figured why not get started. Today was a particularly interesting one and a good reason to get started. I was quoted today in a BBC article, an article written by Matthew Wall. And the subject, or the title of the article was Adapt or Die, How to Cope When the Bots Take Your Job. Which, admittedly, is a pretty cool title. It certainly gets the juices flowing, makes you pay attention. But what I want to talk about in the article, and what was covered in the article, was something that's really near and dear to my heart, and something that I think is extremely important in this day and age, which is about skills, about passion, about reskilling, and about the future of work. And so what do I mean by that? And I'll give you actually a few of the quotes that I'm quoted as saying in the article, because that really sort of kicks us off. So one of the things I said, and I firmly believe this, is that this is an evolution of work. This is the type of work that we do will change. And I could not agree with this more. As I've spent the last few years helping enterprises understand just what is, in my case, what is robotic process automation? How does it play in the larger tapestry and fabric of the work that they're trying to get done, wherever they're trying to do it in the business, whether it's front office, call center, contact center, whether it's middle office, whether it's back office, accounts payable, receivable, HR, supply chain, logistics. The sheer fact is work is changing. And I think this is an incredible turning point and a really interesting opportunity for people to free themselves from the mundane, to unleash themselves from the routine and the rule-based, and to find where they can add the value that they are so well equipped to add. So there's a great example, and we've done this a lot, but when we do proofs of concept in an organization, it doesn't really matter which. It can be in a healthcare organization, it can be in financial services, or consumer packaged goods. When we prove that tasks can be automated, that you can take the mundane, rule-based, routine, painful away from someone, as friends of mine say, take the robot out of the person. That's Leslie Wilcox and Mary Lassity, to appropriately cite that source. What could happen is people could be frightened. They could see this as the death knell of their particular role and the functions that they play in that organization. What actually happens, more often than not, is joy. Literally, tears of joy that they see a task that wasn't the reason they came to work every day going away. They see that they are unleashed now and they can do more interesting and more valuable things, because every organization has people who passionately know what needs to be done to add value. Add value to customers, to employees, to patients, to citizens, doesn't matter. Whatever industry you're in, whoever you're serving, you know what they need, but oftentimes you don't get around to giving them what they need because you're so bogged down in parsing data, pulling information, setting up Excel files, moving information from one system to the other, validating it. The list goes on and on. And so when you can automate the routine, mundane stuff, people are thrilled. So they don't see this as a threat, but they do see that the type of work that they're doing is going to change. And so I firmly believe this is an evolution of work. Now, is it going to take away jobs? And this is another one of my quotes directly from the article by Matthew Wall. I say RPA doesn't have to lead to a culling of staff. In fact, what it can do is it can empower staff and unleash their creativity. It's freeing them from the unproductive stuff. And again, I guess I agree with myself on this one as well. this really does unleash staff and empower them to focus on what is truly productive, what really matters. And so we see that in HR and healthcare systems where people's time was just bogged down in the transactional, in the mundane, and now they can focus on helping integrate pay for employees so that when they're home on disability or maternity, they get the information they need a whole lot faster, and they're happier employees. The team that's working so hard to keep them happy is rewarded, and they get to focus on the proactive components, the value-adding components of the role they play. So I firmly believe that this automation stuff, this huge sort of passionate outflowing of interest in the role that automation can play in every enterprise, in every country, in every industry across the world, will manifest itself in good ways. And in fact, to speak to the job culling point, finally, we generally don't see jobs go away. When we work with enterprises, and I've had the privilege of working with a lot of companies in a lot of complex environments and doing some really meaty, large, hairy automation initiatives, what we often find is this enables them to grow at the rate they needed to anyway. So nonlinear growth. There's sometimes attrition, so that calls the staff naturally, and so they don't need to be laying people off. But then there's also what I call the extra hour situation, which is if you were to ask a team in a company, if you had an extra hour in your day, what would you do? No one that I know of would ever say, nothing, we're good, we got it covered. We don't need that extra hour, you can have it back. What they actually say is, oh goodness, if we had that extra hour, we would do, and they list those things. And so enterprises are creating and unleashing that extra hour. They are enabling people to passionately add their appreciation of the strategic value that's happening in the task that they're doing, but unleashed from having to do the mundane stuff before they can actually get on with the strategic. And so that's it. That's what I believe. I honestly believe, because I've seen it time and time again for years, that the robotic process automation, intelligent automation, just general digital operations trend is a great thing. It's a great thing for enterprises. It's a great thing for the people within enterprises, and it's just the beginning. We are really at the very earliest days of understanding the degree to which this set of technologies can add value to organizations. So I want to do a lot more of these videos in the future. I want to talk a lot more about my particular beliefs and opinions, having been in the trenches for years, as to how enterprises should look at adopting and adapting, and also how people should look at adapting and adapting. That's something that I'm really passionate about, around skills development, around training, around repurposing, around refocusing, and unleashing passions. So look forward to look for more of these videos from me in the future, and I will be talking about everything I see in the trenches. I'm here to help, and if you got any questions, give me a shout. And otherwise, I'll be sharing opinions on the role that this digital operations trend is going to play in all of our lives. Thanks for listening. Take care.